How did this bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and American President Donald Trump go from the lens of the officials in the Ministry of External Affairs? I'm joined now by Meera Shankar. She's been India's ambassador to the United States, a very well-known Indian diplomat. Ma'am, would this have been very tricky for Messrs. Misri and our ambassador Quatra in the United States to manage the fact that you've got a big Trump press conference on tariffs happening when your boss is in DC? He continuously targets India as being a tariff abuser. Was this really what you'd call a diplomatic nightmare in terms of putting together a state visit?
I think by now people are more used to Mr. Trump's methods. So, he generally steps up the pressure before a meeting and strengthens his negotiating position. It's like Sun Tzu's winning without warfare if you step up the pressure. So he psychologically tries to put the other side at a disadvantage or to soften them up before the meeting. I think
how did the meeting go from your lens? You've seen the first Trump-Modi bilateral, the US meeting, the India meeting, you saw the Modi-Biden meeting. How do you compare them?
Well, I think there's greater ideological affinity between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump because they are both heading conservative parties and their domestic agendas to some extent have similarities. So you saw that in the first term of President Trump. Now, in his second term, he's come back with a stronger mandate with very few checks and balances on his executive authority. And whatever he has promised to do, he has started off doing from day one with a vengeance. So in some sense, this was a more difficult, more unpredictable meeting between the two. And for India, I think the challenge was to avoid the minefields and to keep the big picture in mind and get a sense of how Trump in his second avatar sees the future trajectory of the India-US relationship to try to
we've got just about a month and a half
that.
to go before the reciprocal tariffs kick in, Ms. Shankar. Do you think that's enough time to be able to get a bilateral trade agreement going, or is that just too little time and way too many complications to actually arrive at a consensus?
See, there are two things. One is that the reciprocal tariffs will kick in April. But on the other hand, the two sides have agreed to discuss on a possible trade deal. And that trade deal, they want to get ready by the fall. So you're looking at two deadlines. If the negotiations are going reasonably well, I take it that the tariffs could be held in abeyance to give time for the trade talks to, reach fruition. If the trade talks are not going well, then you have the possibility of the tariffs kicking in. But I think what the two sides have done is to take what could have been a potential friction point and to deal with it pragmatically. Of course, President Trump also raising issues of agricultural tariffs in India, saying that the US has an average tariff of 2% on agricultural imports, whereas India has an average tariff of 39%.
No, but that's an unviable ask. Prime Minister Modi has, I know the next election is only Bihar, but that's like a political landmine. He steps on it. Mamata Banerjee, Akhilesh, Rahul Gandhi will have their bazookas out for the Prime Minister. He can't mess around with agriculture and dairy tariffs.
I don't think that India will agree. That's what I'm saying. But we can buy a couple of agricultural products like we do buy almonds, pistachios, or even
wine.
Sometimes Washington apples and so on. So that is something we can do. But like the US was wanting to export beef at one stage, and we had to literally say that this is something which is culturally just not acceptable. You don't understand the Indian context, but no government in India will be able to agree to this. And similarly on agriculture as a whole, we have consistently taken the view that this is a political no-no. We have subsistence farming, 2.5 acre farms. You cannot expose the vulnerability of those farmers to international competition with these huge mega agricultural corporations.
Okay.
So agriculture is a no-no. But again, as I said, there are skillful workarounds, if you will, where you
Meera
can
Shankar,
pick
for
up an
taking out
item.
time and joining us. You're saying buy what you don't really face massive political backlash around. Maybe we can just reduce Harley-Davidson import duty substantially, make it as close to zero, let them export as many Harleys as they want. Let's see how many Indians actually want to buy it. He somehow got stuck on Harley-Davidsons, and it just keeps coming up in every press conference. Well, some of this is just having to deal with the neighborhood bully. You have to figure out how to trapeze your way around his demands.